Hey folks, it's your pal Mike Shea from slyflourish.com and twitter.com/slyflourish here with another episode of Sly Flourish's Lazy DM Prep. This is a 1-hour show in which I use the steps from Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master to prepare for my Waterdeep Dragon Heist game. It looks like my gain is a little high. Tell me if I'm clipping out. I just was tweaking my gain and I think I screwed it all up. What can I say? So yes, we go through the 8 steps from Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master while I prepare for the game that I run every Sunday. If you are clipping still a bit high, says Streamweaver, hopefully it's better now. I'm looking and I don't see anything hitting the red, so I think it's okay. That's what you get for tweaking the dials right before a show. So if you are not familiar with the 8 steps from Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master, you can learn about them in a few different ways. One of them is you can go down in the links below, and there is a link to the PDF preview from Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master. And you can read about the 8 steps there, a summary of the 8 steps there. You can also buy the book and learn all about the 8 steps from the book itself, which, of course, I highly recommend. You can also watch a couple of YouTube videos. There's one YouTube video that summarizes each of the 8 steps, and then there's one video for each step in which I talk specifically about what is going on with that step. So if you are unfamiliar with the steps, that is a good way to catch up. Even if you are not familiar with them, you'll learn through osmosis as we go through them. But what I won't be doing is summarizing each of the steps like I used to do, because that took a lot of time. Boy, is there a lot of stuff to talk about today. The D&D Descent event in LA, their live event in LA is going on this weekend. They started on Friday and they are going through today, running games, streaming games, and talking about new product announcements and generally hyping up their new product. And the new product, let's see, why don't we go over, they were talking about it, D&D Beyond, is Descent into Avernus. Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus. I thought it was interesting that they have Baldur's Gate in there. I thought there was more than this. I think there's another article that he's got. Yeah, here we go. I think this one's probably... Yeah, so there it is. Descent into Avernus is a level 1 through 13 adventure that starts in the city of Baldur's Gate and then descends into Avernus. First layer of hell. And the way it has been described at this event is Mad Max Fury Road in hell. So a lot of machines, a lot of great big, war choppers that are powered by souls and all kinds of crazy stuff. So I thought that's pretty neat. That kind of breaks away from the typical, generic version of hell. If you're like, well, we're going to have hell, but we're also going to throw machines. My mom says, I'm her. Sorry. We are live. You are live. Hello, Mom. I see you in the chat. Everyone say hello to my mom. So it looks really interesting. And what else did they announce? Oh, the other thing that I found really interesting. What is this? Oh, is that just the dice box? That is the dice box for this thing. And that looks crazy. I didn't realize this new dice box. It looks like it has a lot of stuff. So it's got hellish dice. It's got a map of Avernus, and then a bunch of encounter cards and stuff. I wonder what the price is on that. It looks like it might be more expensive. It's $20 probably. But that looks pretty cool, and it looks like it comes with a lot of dice. 4d6 and 2d20s, and then one of each of the others. So pretty interesting. But then there's this that I'm particularly interested in. Which is the new D&D Essentials Kit. The Essentials Kit is a $25 box. It's going to start by being exclusive to Target, and then it's going to come out in September everywhere. That caused a little bit of a stir on my Twitter feed from a couple of people. Comes with 2d20s and 4d6, according to an article, lined with felt. Yeah, so that's the interesting. This box here, the box for the dice, is a die rolling box. It's a box meant for you to roll dice in too. So it's quite a little, you could throw your minis in there and you could throw a box in there. It looks like a pretty cool accessory. I don't think it's like a wormwood level accessory. Wormwood should make something like that though. Wouldn't that be cool? So that's pretty cool. I don't know what's cost though. Is there a price point on it? I don't see a price point on it. Somebody can maybe find out how much that thing costs. So the Essentials kit is a sort of advanced starter set. It's not exactly clear to me where it fits. I think the intent is you don't need to buy anything else. This is sort of like a bigger starter set, but they also wanted to make it sort of compatible with the starter set. So it's set in Phandelver. So I presume that what it means is if you bought the starter set, you can buy this and it won't be duplicative. You'll have another set of dice. The adventure is different. This one, the rule books are different and includes character creation rules. I presume, level 1 to 6 for five classes, including the core 4 and a bard. But it comes with a lot of stuff. It includes, I don't think they really have a picture of it here, but I've seen other pictures. It includes poster maps of Phandalin, the city. It includes a surrounding area with like quest maps. It includes a deck of punch-out cards for treasure and quests and things like that. It includes a lightweight DM screen, and it includes a bigger set of dice, so 2d20s, 4d6s for rolling stats and stuff like that. I don't know who rolls for stats. That's crazy. And it also, this is really interesting, includes a one-on-one version. So if you and a friend want to learn how to play, you can learn how to play, and you can actually play the adventure with one-on-one using the variant sidekick rules that are being included in there. And Streamweaver in the chat says that it's going to cost $25. That's MSRP, so it's going to be significantly cheaper in some places. And you actually get to unlock the adventure on D&D Beyond. I wonder if you get to unlock the class stuff as well. Barantor says it looks like a flimsier DM screen. It will be. It'll be just like a cardboard DM screen. It will not be as nice as the full one because they probably want to sell the full one, and also that alone is I think $20. So yeah, they're not gonna put a super advanced DM screen in there. But I think for the idea that like when we think about this hobby and God knows how much like energy and stuff I'm putting into this hobby, and when I've got friends with dice that cost more than $100 per die, and wormwood boxes, the handcrafted dice boxes, and Dwarven Forge setups, and just how big this game can get, and how varied, and the cosplay and everything. Like it's amazing how big this game can be. And then it's also like, but you can buy pretty much the whole game for $25 in a box and play with your friends for months. That is awesome, and that's one thing I love about D&D is like theoretically the price range to be able to play D&D starts at 0 and goes up almost infinitely until you're buying a whole house, buying a castle to play in. So, it's pretty neat. Streamweaver says it looks like it's a good price point to give as a gift. Yeah, the starter set was so reasonably priced. I used to buy 10 at a time and then give them away at kid drives and give them away to friends and give them away to friends of friends and all kinds of stuff. I'd keep a stack of them and just hand them out. I don't know if I'm, if this hits, it's not unreasonable that on Amazon it won't hit $12. And $12 for something like this. You never know. Like I think the starter set, the margin on that was pretty low because it was really lightweight box, Caden with really great stuff. But yeah, the idea that buy a couple of them, keep them on hand, and hand them out to your friends who want to learn how to play D&D. Like it's a great box. So it looks really cool. If the adventure is anything, so Chris Perkins wrote the adventure, probably the best adventure writer around right now. I think I'd argue. So on the assumption that the adventure is good, and it's a pretty good assumption, I think it'll be one of the strongest products they have for Wizards of the Coast for D&D. I think it'll be one of the strongest D&D products ever. Barantor says the starter set might be on sale. Yeah, I think Amazon had the starter set down to under $9. It was like $9 for a starter set. And it's still, the funny thing is just because this is coming out in a month or so doesn't mean that starter set's not any good anymore. That starter set's still a fantastic set, so you can still give it away to friends. I mean, it has been the kind of entry point for D&D for the last 5 years, and it hasn't hurt. So I still think that kind of starting with pre-gens and getting right into an adventure is a strong way to get into D&D. I'm not sure that I think that I have heard anecdotal evidence that people who want to learn D&D like to start by making characters. So who knows? I think it's interesting, and the fact that you could kind of buy both of them and you'd have a pretty robust pile of D&D to play through is pretty neat. So anyway, that I think I'm actually more excited for the Essentials kit than I am for Avernus, even though Avernus is probably something that's going to be a bigger deal to me. Step Back History is here. Hello, Step Back History. Welcome. Let's see. He's not your problem. You're back. I think I remember you from last time. Maybe you've been in more of them. I'm terrible with names. I'd like to see if if it has a DM quick start guide. That's something missing from Lost Minds and Fandelver starter set and DMG. It's something that I need, but it's tough for aspirant DM to figure out how to start in terms of official guidance from WotC. Yeah, we'll see what they do. Like, obviously, it's a really hard problem. Like, how do you get people in? Actually, one article idea that I want to work on, which is something I have very little experience in, is how do you teach D&D to new people? So that's going to be interesting, and it'll see. I think they will have poured a lot of energy into it. Barontor says Avernus is cool, but not my thing. More interested in Saltmarsh. Yeah, so the cool is you get both, right? Like, you get Saltmarsh in next week, right? Next Tuesday, and then Avernus comes out in September, I believe. And I doubt, I'm going to be backed up. So. I play so much D&D. I play 2 games a week, right? And I can't keep up. I can't keep up with all this stuff. Like, because then there's also the adventure that's in this thing. That's in the essential set. So we're getting like 3 big published adventures in the next, in the next week. Barontor, I'm not going to refer to it as adventure constipation. Thank you very much. Got enough problems going on. So if you think about like, well, I want more published adventures from D&D, you're getting a 1 to I think how far does Saltmarsh go? Saltmarsh is pretty high level, right? I can't spell. I love that people already have Ghost of Saltmarsh PDF is still the #1 hit. Like jerks. No, I don't know. I know about the live event. Holy cow, I've been reading it. Yeah, so Saltmarsh is 1 to 12. So that's like a year, I'm probably a little less than maybe 9 months, depending on how you run it. I don't know. We'll see. But that's coming out. That's coming out next week. And then I ordered the silver edition from Beetle and Groom. They're sort of advanced set for it. I learned all about the sinister secrets of Saltmarsh. And this one comes with cool handouts and battle maps and a big large area map and encounter cards and an amulet, the shark amulet, and a pin of the cult of Tharizdun. I'm going to put that on my jacket because who doesn't want to worship Tharizdun? Reorganized main book, a custom DM screen, bonus encounters and characters. So looks pretty cool. Anyway, I ordered this one because I want to see what a Beetle and Grimm box set is like. And of course, I also had a negotiation with my wife about the platinum edition of Descent into Avernus. And sales on return have gone well. So I said, what the hell? Let's go all in. And I pre-ordered that as well because it's 25% off. So Beetle and Grimm I just poured a lot into Beetle and Grimm. And I'm excited about it. It's going to be pretty neat to see what that's like. And then I'll do it for these 2 and see how I like them. Big, a gigantic box. The box is going to be enormous because the box includes like the War Machine miniature, which is enormous. So I said to the Beetle and Groom guys on Twitter, I'm like, are you going to drive that thing up to my house? Because if so, I'm going to have to give you a visitor pass or you'll get towed. That was my joke. And they said, we're going to do donuts on the lawn. And I said, my HOA won't approve of that. Step Back History says, I'd love if they released a book that was just the miscellaneous mechanics chapters from these other books. Yeah, although I presume they kind of want people to buy the book even if they're not going to run the adventures. So that's a key thing. Like, I think, so I'm in a different sort of state than everyone is in, and I can afford to kind of throw a lot of money at D&D because it's my #1 hobby. And yeah. So I'm into it, and I'm all in, and it means I'm willing to kind of buy things where I don't really think about it. Like, there's no doubt that I'm buying every hardback that comes out from Wizards of the Coast, right? But a lot of I still go back to like there's a lot of value in these books, and if you buy Ghosts of Saltmarsh, for example, and you're like, well, I don't really plan on running the adventures, but there's so much other stuff in there, and you think about every map that's going to be in there, and you think about every interesting NPC and all the evocative artwork and all of the other little accessories that are in there, you can steal a lot of material from these hardbacks even if you never run them. And I'd say the same is true probably with Avernus. I'm going to make the assumption, like if you ever want to run a jungle adventure, there's a lot of stuff inside Tomb of Annihilation, even if you never plan on running the tomb. And if you plan on just having small dungeons, you could steal like a lot of the chambers out of those rooms and you could steal a lot of chambers out of those rooms and make them like one room dungeons, you know? So there's a lot of material to pilfer when you buy hardback. This is something I've promoted a couple of times on Sly Flourish, that like, if you imagine how much money it costs them to make a book like Descent into Avernus, right? Like, I don't have a great number, but certainly six figures, right? And certainly more than that. I don't think it probably cost $1 million to make a book like that, but it probably cost them, you know, when you think that they got full-time people that are working on it, and they got a bunch of freelancers that are working on it, they got a ton of art, and they got all the page design and the material, you know, let's conservatively, super conservatively say that it costs $150,000 to make that book. You are buying a book that, for $50, if you buy at MSRP, right? You are buying a book for $50 that took $150,000 to make. That's a tremendous, with salary and overhead. Navy DM says with salary and overhead, it's probably approaching 7 figures. Maybe. Yeah, I mean, it could be, right? But yeah, so I don't know. It's really hard to, you know, because on one side, like, I know now how much it costs to make the books I make, but mine are very different kinds of books. And they're not the same kind of thing. But yeah, they pay their freelancers well, they pay their artists well, they, you know, have a bunch of people on salary that are working on it, so you got to take like a slice of their salary per book and all that stuff and try to figure it out. But, you know, so if Navy DM says it's probably approaching 7 figures, you know, you're getting a 6-figure book for $50. We can say that, and that's a tremendous value. It's sort of like the value of a cheeseburger, right? There was like a, you know, there's that old not Arthur C. Clarke, who was the other guy? Cosmos guy. Oh my God, I'm so terrible. Name's right on the tip of my tongue. He wrote Contact. Oh, I suck. Carl Sagan, right? Carl Sagan says, if you want to make an apple pie, first you have to build a universe. And it's kind of true. Like, if you think about the amount of energy that it takes to make like a cheeseburger, right? And the infrastructure that's in place to make a cheeseburger, that cheeseburger is worth millions of dollars, right? Like, you know, there's parts of that cheeseburger that are from almost every place of the planet. And that's an incredible amount of efficiency. And if you think about like, you know, if you think about how much energy goes into these books, you know, there's a high value. And so I look at them and it's like, oh, maybe it's not a high value to you because you don't actually use anything from it. But I was just sitting and reading the books. You know, we're getting a tremendous value for those books, if you ask me. And then you think about the number of hours that we play. So I bought like Waterdeep Dragon Heist, and I've run it for only one group, and I'm running it 3 hours a week, and we're going to run it for like half a year. You know, that's a lot. And if you think about this, the 6 of us, you know, 3 hours at a session, that's, you know, 18 hours per session that we're getting. And then you divide it like the cost of the book by the number of hours, and it's pennies. It's like one of the cheapest forms of entertainment out there. Anyway, this is my long-winded way of saying that, generally speaking, I think the hardback adventures are worthwhile. But again, I'm also the kind of guy that just buys almost everything I can get my hands on. And I know that a lot of people aren't in the state where they can afford that kind of thing. And that's why I'm glad that D&D can be played for free. There's a lot of free adventures. I was looking at the number of free intros to the hardback adventures that Wizards of the Coast has, and they have 5 free intros. So you can play like level 1 to 3 and 1 to 5 in 5 different campaigns for free. So yeah, it's pretty incredible. Yeah, Navy DM says, think of the starter set. You buy it now, it's $10, and it gives you 6 months of fun. Right. And the thing about the starter set, which I don't think this ever really was really clarified. But one of the interesting things about the starter set is that every map in the starter set is kind of a general map of a kind of thing you would want to have in D&D. It's got a cave lair. It's got a ruined castle. It's got a town. It's got a ruined town. It's got a mine, and it's got like an underground brigand hideout thing, right? And it's got all of these maps in there that you can totally reskin and use for all kinds of things. And those are nice generic maps. And then you look in the back of the book, and it's got monsters up to level 6. So if you don't mind going, you know, not being able to really go higher than like level 5, you could probably run numerous 1 to 5 campaigns right out of the starter set without anything else. And that blows my mind too. So, Step Back History says, I got to work around a budget and floor space being a Torontorian with very modest means. Yes, right. And I get it. I'm actually, 2 things that are limiting me are space in my house and time. That, you know, my ability to spend time on something that I buy. I buy way too much stuff and then don't really get to use it. And I don't know. I mean, the thing to keep in mind for me is it's also, this is sort of a side business for me, not so much a hobby. And so it's paying for itself for me. But I get it that like that's not everybody, and that's certainly where we put our money needs to matter for a lot of people. And where do we get our most value? And I try to help people get on that, get that value. Like I really think you need very little to run an awesome game. I've said and have gotten in trouble for. Again, not gotten in trouble, but I've gotten, kind of into big debates about like the value of miniatures and the value of tabletop terrain and how much of a difference it actually makes to your game. And my rough estimate when I've like surveyed players and I've kind of talked to people about it is it counts for maybe like 10%. If you had a game where you said on a 1 to 10 scale, how good was my game? And they said a 7, and you had like all the best minis and all the best terrain, you could get to an 8. So you're getting a 10% improvement for a, Theater of the Mind Mafia. That you're getting a little bit of a boost over, you're spending an exponential amount of money for a logarithmic boost in your get all mathy about it, for a logarithmic boost in how valuable the game is. So don't tell that to Dwarven Forge. I am a big supporter of Dwarven Forge. Hey, let me show you what I built for today's game. Hey, look at that. So I literally made this room. I wanted to see how fast I could build a room for today's game. And I built this room in about 15 minutes. And it's not really done yet. I want to make some hallways and stuff like that. So I clearly love my Dwarven Forge. I have a nice big, who's that big wingy guy? Sharkfacer says. That is Asmodeus. That is a statue of Asmodeus. That came with the recent Reaper minis, and I didn't paint it because it makes it for a great statue. So that is a Reaper mini of, and I'm saying it's a Reaper mini of Asmodeus. That isn't actually Asmodeus. It's a statue of Asmodeus. This is the cellar of Growlin Villa. Oh, hey, guess what? I've got a game to prep for. We should probably talk about that game. I wonder if there's any other little points that I had made too. So I don't know. I will say that like I'm excited about the Beetle and Groom box set. I'm always excited about the Dwarven Forge stuff I get. I don't have a false impression that it is the difference between a crappy game and an awesome game. The things that matter, like the things that really matter to running a good D&D game don't really cost any money. They don't cost money, I should say. I shouldn't qualify that, right? The things that matter to a great game don't cost money. They are about thinking about your players and what they want. They're about building a flexible story. They're about understanding how to improvise on the spot and let the story have, go in a fun way. I built this room and I'm going to bring it, but if I hadn't brought it, I don't really think it would have an effect on the game. I think I could describe it and my players would be as happy as anyway. They'll like it. Like they'll go, oh, this is cool. And I'll turn on the little lights in the right side and the portal and I'll talk about that stuff and they can kind of explore it. And that'll be fun, but it's not like, wow, it's a whole different game. It's a better game, but it's not hugely better. So, and I have a feeling like the Beetle and Groom stuff is sort of the same way. It's not meant to like, wow, this game is a totally different game and it's so much better. It's like a crappy DM who's railroading players and who's punishing them and is being adversarial. Doesn't matter if they have the Beetle and Groom box set or not, their players are still going to be pissed. So I think that the accessories are cool and they're nice. And I mean, I'm buying them, so I obviously think they're good and I like them. But I don't think that I don't think that they're so important that it's like the difference between a bad game and a good game, or even a good game and a great game. I think they are varying and great games. Navy DM says, one thing I think I've seen Sly Flourish do is make a few default rooms and use them as one major. You would think I would have done that. In fact, if you look in the upper right corner, I have one of my default rooms and I was like, oh, I should use that default room. And I was like, nah, I need a bigger room. So I made a bigger one anyway. So even my default room idea isn't really working. The hard bit is, it does take time to build these rooms and I just don't have the kind of time that I used to have. I'm in the middle of some big things going on and, it's taken a lot of my time. I was up at 3 a.m. today on a Sunday working on articles for Sly Flourish because I've been neglecting them because of other projects I've been working on. Yeah, you spot Heroes of Baldur's Gate in the background. That was a gift. That was a preview copy that came from the Arcanum Worlds guys, which is really interesting because they just published Baldur's Gate and now there's a new Baldur's Gate thing coming out in 3 months. You're like, oh, well, you know. But that one's cool because it was set 100 years earlier, so it's a whole different kind of campaign in Baldur's Gate. But boy, if you want your Baldur's Gate, you're going to get a lot of Baldur's Gate. Barontor says, did you watch the streams the last 2 nights? I watched the intros, and then my wife and I over breakfast have been watching the Jeremy Crawford game, and it looks really cool. I guess there's a Jeremy Crawford game and there's a Chris Perkins game, and both look great. So I wanna do it. Yeah, Navy DM says, the guy who wrote that got hired for their new Austin office. That is true. Yeah, I was emailing with him about it. I don't know any secrets or anything like that, but I did congratulate them on getting that. And so yeah. Step Back History says, I currently don't do minis, and even when I do dungeons, I just make dungeons with mind maps. Yes, I did that too. What game was I running recently? And could you just draw that out? And I just drew it out on a little sketch paper. So most of my Waterdeep Dragon Heist games have been Theater of the Mind completely. And I just every so often it's like, well, I have all this great Dwarven Forge stuff. I should pull it out and use it more. But boy, I'll tell you, that's the other thing. Like the cost is one thing, but it takes a lot of time to set it up. And when you're like, well, I could just go hit Dyson. You know, I could go to Dyson Logos. Dyson's the best, man. This guy, we are lucky to have him. You go to Dyson Logos, and you're like, I'll just pick one of these maps. Like, you know, somewhere down here. There, by the way, are hundreds of maps on this page alone. Here, stick this in the thing, and I got to stick this in the show notes here. Dyson Maps. So here's a guy that, for free, paid for by his patrons on Patreon, builds tons of free maps of all kinds of stuff. And there's almost always one in here where you're like, what I really want is sort of an underground dungeon to a manor, you know? And you're like, this looks kind of pretty good. You know, and look at that. Like, that's a nice big map. And, you know, the Arcane Waters, that's not exactly a basement, but, you know, wow. And you can just print that thing out on a piece of paper and you're ready to go, you know. It's amazing. And this is all for free. He's giving this stuff away. You know, it goes back for years. Old manors and yeah, here, White Crag Fortress, right? Not exactly a, you know, but you can mix and match these maps. Oh, look, there's a naughty dungeon. Yeah, Jared Blando, Mike Schley, all these guys publish their stuff. You know, I like Dyson's because they're printable on black and white paper. But yeah, you know, there's a lot of map resources out here. I also like that there's just one page that has every one of his maps on here. It just makes it really fast to go find a map. You know, we were talking about the importance of cave layers, right? Where's his link to the cave layers? You know, you need some caves, man. Here's some caves. Ready to go. Yeah, Daniel Walthall has some great stuff, too. Daniel Walthall did maps for me. He's a fantastic cartographer. I love his stuff. Daniel Walthall has maps in the Lazy DM workbook. So the Lazy DM workbook, by the way, that was one of my goals with the Lazy DM workbook. Let's see if I can find this thing here. One of my things that I want to do with the Lazy DM workbook that the fine Kickstarter backers helped fund was I threw in 10 lazy lairs in this book. This isn't an ad, by the way, but you should go buy it. It's really great, and it's cheap. It's $5, and it's got all kinds of random tables and stuff. And so the lazy lairs include 10 lairs: castle, docks, sewers, catacombs, caves, cellars, dungeons, mines, temples, and a wizard's tower. And each one has read aloud text and area aspects that you can kind of customize for whatever you got. So here's a castle. Here is a dock. This was done by Elven Tower. This was done by Axebane, Daniel, who we were talking about. This is the sewers. Here's Catacombs by Daniel. I'm sorry, this is by Elven Tower. This is by Axebane. Caves. You know, you see the cave, right? A lot of different, you know, same kind of caves. Cellars. Dungeon. Like an actual dungeon where you would put people in the dungeon. Mines, dwarven mines, a temple. This can be either an above ground or an underground temple, depending on how you want to run it, and a wizard's tower. So I wanted to make 10 of them. I tried to think, like, what are the most commonly used places? And what's interesting is in my Shadow of the Demon Lord game, I use these a lot. So, like, they were just recently went into a temple, and they were going down to find a an artifact that was stored by these evil temple people that was under the guise of a good temple. So I used this map for the above ground thing, and then had them sneak around to area, I think it was like area 11-ish. Yeah, it was right around here. And I cut away a lot of this stuff. But they had, like, can you go in through the gardens? Can you go in through the crypt? Can you go in through the main entrance? They got in through the Aqualight layer. I added a hallway between 2 and 5 here so that there was a way to kind of sneak around. So one thing I wish I'd done a little bit more with this is I could have interconnected this a little bit more so that you can kind of get through the place. You can get through the place in multiple paths. So I had the temple map for one, and then the basement of that led to the crypt. Where's the crypt? To here. And area 11 is where I wanted them to get to, but they sort of ended up going through here and through a hall and ended up in area 11. And so what I did is I sort of sliced the map in half. I actually used the lower half of this map for their game the previous time, where they found an ancient burial ground and all kinds of crazy stuff in there. And so it's great to have a map, and then you can just sort of in your head add interconnections. So like I put a path from area 12 to area 5 so that they could they kind of entered through area 12, went through area 5, then 3, then 4, and then 6. And so you can take like a generic map and just sort of modify it. And then everything from 9, 10, and 11 was sliced off. I did not have, and in fact all these rooms were sliced off too. So I really only used these 5 rooms in here, and then I sort of connected them differently. But it was nice to be able to start with something like this, so that was a big plus. Dyson is doing a lot of work at Hexes for Steve Jackson. Really? I didn't know Dyson was doing Steve Jackson stuff. So Dyson, man, he's doing all kinds of stuff, but he's doing a lot of wizard stuff these days. Navy DM says that's a great tip as well. I don't know what the great tip was. Just add notes via Paint or something like that, or use Roll20. If map doesn't fit what you like to use, cut it up and use it another way. Yeah, so I want to write an article about mashing up maps. And the idea is like, if you want part sewers and part something else, just grab a few of the rooms and that you want. And I don't think you really have to do much. Like, you could draw that out again, but as long kit bashing maps, right? Take maps and carve them into pieces. Take the parts you want, cut off hallways, collapse hallways, and build sort of new maps. But if you're starting with something, this is just like where we're talking about with published adventures. If you're starting with something, you're in a better spot than if you're starting with nothing, right? It's hard to sit and think up a map. Trust me, I had to think up a bunch of maps recently from scratch, and it's a pain in the ass. But when you're like making a quick thing for your game, just steal, right? So yeah, I think that made a big difference. So I have a game in an hour, and I need to prep. So let's talk about game prep for Dragon Heist. Let me go to my Sublime. There we go. And what over here, we'll go to D&D Beyond, and we'll go to Dragon Heist. So in the last game, I started with Fireball, my favorite chapter and my favorite introduction to a chapter in any published game, because it's got that strong start. Boom, Fireball exploded, right? And there's so many. No, I'm sorry. That was the week before, was Fireball. So they did a big investigation, and they started with, they knew to go to Growlin Villa. And the way our session started last time, I have my notes here, is, a devil came to the keep, or came to Trollskull Manor. And, hang on. Super dry in this room. So a devil, Coster Goldstrife, came, and I knew I made it a she, but it ended up being a he, and told them that their job is to ensure that the Castellanters fail at getting the money. That, in particular, Uranus's patron wants him specifically to ensure that the Castellanters do not succeed. Which is kind of interesting because it's a dark thing. If the Castellanters fail to get the money back, their 2 children's souls are destroyed or taken. So that's kind of an interesting, dark twist. And then the question is, are they willing to do that, or are they not? So some fun sort of interconnections with this most recent campaign that's going on. So they put together all of their clues and realized that the Growlhuns are acting as a front for the Castellanters. and that the person who grabbed up this stone ran to the Growlin Villa. So they knew to go to Growlin Villa, and they did. And they attacked. So they were trying to find ways to break into Growlin Villa. And they it turned out that some Xanathar jackasses were also breaking into Growlin Villa. I printed out this map, and I actually remembered to bring it with me. And we used this map for them to do their infiltration of the place. And they ended up breaking through a second-story window up on this second story here. And they got into a big fight with Lord and Lady Growlin. Lord Growlin is just a noble. He's nobody. But Lady Growlin was a priestess of Asmodeus. And she was able to cast big spells. She was casting, like, Spirit Guardians and Spirit Weapon, and she critically shot somebody with a Guiding Bolt. Guiding Bolt is really powerful. And she hit a guy with a critical hit on a Guiding Bolt and did 28 damage to him and pinned him unconscious to the ground outside. And it was a great big fight. And they killed her and knocked out him. And then the two children come running out. And they're like, oh, and then there is an undead wight who is their grandfather. It's her father, right, who's now a wight and guards the place at night. And he comes running up the stairs, and he's hacking down people left and right. And they kill him, too. And then the two kids come running out, and they're like, you killed grandfather! You killed grandpa! You know, and they're all upset. And they're like, oh, man, these poor kids, we killed their grandfather. But he was an undead nastiness. So there's a lot of, like, well, they were a family, right? They're just kind of a twisted family, but they're a family. And so they're like, well, was it your sibling who disappeared? And they said, no, our sibling is off and you know. Oh, so because they're trying to figure out, they know that one of these two families gave up one of their children's souls, but they don't know if it's the Castlanters or the Growlins. And I think they now realize it's the Castlanters and not the Growlins, that the Growlins know where all their kids are. And the father, who was still awake, said, if you either resurrect or ensure that the soul of my wife doesn't get taken, I will tell you what you need to know. And I think we ended right there where they cast like whatever. There's that low level spell that sort of preserves a body. They kind of use that to kind of keep her soul nearby, so that so that he can get her resurrected. And he said that gentle repose. Yeah, I think that was right. So they're working out the deal. Also, while they were here, Herstal Flaxen, who is a former Zhentarim agent and is now a freelance assassin that is working for the Castlanters, jumped through a secret door inside of the chimney, inside of the fireplace, and has gone down below into some kind of chamber below Growlin Villa. And in my version of this game, the chamber below Growlin Villa is a secret altar used to be to Tiamat and now is to Asmodeus. Hence the, where is it here? Somewhere. Hence the vault to Asmodeus. And the deal is, so now we're going to get into the next chapter, and I have opinions and recommendations for the next chapter, because that's where things are quickly running through. And in my version of the game, Herstal Flaxen, who has the Stone of Galore. So there was a really neat thing, which is the bad guys screwed up, right? And the players now know that the bad guys screwed up. That Herstal Flaxen was going to go. He was going to kill the gnome that had the Stone of Galore. He's just going to assassinate him, take the item, and walk away. And no one would have known. They wouldn't even, they wouldn't have found the gnome for an hour, right? And by that point, the stone, and instead, the idiot Growlins sent their own machine to go get it as well, and the machine threw a fireball and created this incredible catastrophe, this huge explosion, and now everybody's paying attention to it. And he's like, so there was a scene where Herstal Flaxen was yelling at the two of the Growlins and punched the guy in the face, for saying like, you guys are such morons. We had this under control, and then you came and screwed it all up by throwing a fireball in the middle of everything. So I thought that was kind of neat, that it was like this the bad guys can screw up, that the bad guys' plans can screw up, and that can help the characters figure out, like they would have succeeded, right? The whole thing of them getting the gold would have happened easily if they hadn't dropped that fireball in the middle of things. So anyway, at that point, Herstal Flaxen goes down the chimney, goes down to the secret room below, and he goes through a teleporter. If you look on the right side of my little Dwarven Forge room, there's an archway with two little weird statuette things. That is going to be a teleporter that he steps through, and the teleport, and then it seals behind him. So now the characters don't know where he went yet, but they can probably, and I think this is going to happen, whoever is trained in Arcana and gets the highest Arcana check can kind of figure out the signature of the teleporter, and then can go around town and try to find out where in town he went so that they can start to track him. And this gets into my recommendation for how to run the next chapter of Dragon Heist. So if we go back to the next chapter is called Dragon Season, and Dragon Season is written to be a chase. It is intended that the Nimblewright, let's see. So the way it's written as intended is that Lady Grauhan's Nimblewright took the Stone of Galore and fled. And the Nimblewright delivers the artifact to a location and leaves it there for the main villain or villains to retrieve. And in our case, it's the Castellanders. The Castellanders are the villains. The stone is left in their family crypt in Waterdeep Cemetery, the city of the dead. A halfling necromancer gets a hold of it, gets to it before the Castellanders or the characters do. So the whole intent of this is that it's a chase. Wabbit season, duck season. So the whole intent of this is that it is a chase. But in my experience, trying to dictate that it's going to be a chase is fraught with problems. And a big one is that if the characters succeed in the chase, they get a hold of the MacGuffin too early. And there's a little whole thing about here, how the Stone of Galore is this intelligent item and it doesn't want to be found. And that doesn't sit right with me. The problem with that is, like, it just seems like the DM is saying, screw you guys, you know, I want the game to go a certain way, and until chapter 4 unfolds, the stone doesn't tell them things. That just seems weak. So better is they just don't really have a chance to get a hold of the stone, but they can try to figure out where it goes. So instead of running it as this sort of frantic chase to try to catch whoever has the stone, with either the option of A, they don't get the stone and it's frustrating as hell, or B, they get the stone but they can't do anything with the stone. Yeah, and He's Not Your Problem says the chain of encounters and the emo stone felt very much like a railroad. I agree. So to me, a more interesting way to run this is that he gets away and the characters now have to rest and they have to spend their time doing an investigation instead of a chase. So the stone can still go through the paths that are outlined in this chapter, but the stone has already gone through them. And now the characters have to go track where the stone went. And that way, the characters are learning something interesting each time they're going. They're having encounters. They're finding things out. They're investigating what's going on. And the whole time they're like tracking the clues. But even that way, I think it has like the encounter chains are, I think they're 8 long. Math. Let's open this in a new tab. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there are 8 encounters per encounter chain. Which is a little long. That's a lot of clues. So I think that I think some of these can be cut out. And to me, the ones that can be cut out are the ones that are clearly involving a chase. So what we're going to do now is so let's go to our notes here, right? Actually, I have to do a prep. So, starting, what's step 1? Step 1 is look at the characters. So, let's take a look at the characters. Anton Greycastle, human Battlemaster Fighter, Waterdhavian Noble. I don't think anything really interesting happened with his character in particular in the last one. The interesting thing for him is that his Yagra Stonefist is his special lady friend. So, he's learning about this interim. And he already has a magic sword. Banjo Wilkerson has his levitating magical bardic instrument, which is a banjo. And I actually don't think a lot of interesting things have happened with each of these characters, except for Brian and Pat's character. So John the Grizzled, he did a lot of stuff. He was one of the guys that was pinned to the ground With the thing. And he, I think he now has, I wanted him to get some prayer beads. Brian, his character, Aranis, is a Drow Pact of the Fiend warlock, and he knows, he knows a little bit about his patron, and now it was the devil that came to him and said, hey, your job is to make sure that the Castellanters don't succeed because we want the souls of their children far more than we're interested in the souls of, than in the money, right? So, and then you have Agrin, who is a human rogue investigator, and I don't know if the party has figured out yet that he is an undercover agent of the Grey Hands, but he is, and he is, from a magic item perspective. I want each character to get a really cool magic item, and I think that Herstal Flaxen's acidic crossbow is going to be the item he gets probably at the end of this chapter. And I think somehow I want to get prayer beads in the hands of John the Grizzled, and I want to get Rod of the Packkeeper in the hands of Aranis. I need a strong start. So they are having a conversation with the watch can show up. And the characters have to decide to flee or stand with the watch. And we'll play that by ear. So scenes are the watch. The watch arrives. What is it? Is it a shrine? The shrine of Asmodeus. And so now then they have to find the teleportation exit. Where did it go? And that begins the chase. And then it looks like we will. We're probably going to cut some of these out, but let's list them anyway. Mausoleum, the windmill, rooftop. I should put the numbers here. 4, 10. Rooftop is 5. Alley is 1. Street is 3. 9. 8. Courthouse. And 7. Old Tower. So that is the 8 potential scenes where they go. And let us take a look. Let's get rid of some of these. I got a lot of stuff open. Probably want that. Oh, it's too late. And let's go here. And are these hyperlinked? Oh, look at that. No, it's not hyperlinked. I thought that. For a minute, I thought that would be hyperlinked. So we will use the 4. That's not linked. Is that because this? All right. So summer, right? Summer is the encounter chain. So let's read up on summer. Spring. Summer encounter chain. The Waterdhavians contend with the sweltering heat. Castellanters sent disciples of their Asmodeus worshipping cult to seize the Stone of Galore while deftly avoiding entanglements into local authorities. Characters arrive at Castellanter Mausoleum to find several dead cultists inside. See Encounter 4 Mausoleum. A Left 4 Dead survivor tells the cultists were betrayed by 2 of their own. The characters then head to their own windmill in the southern ward where the cult fanatics practice their diabolical faith. Converted windmill. Spine devils swoop in, snatch the stone, and flee, setting up a rooftop chase. We're probably going to cut that. Spine devils deliver the stone to a hire coach parked in an alley. Inside the coach is Victorio Castellanter's valet, Williford Crowell, doppelganger in tiefling form. As the hire coach flees, a street chase ensues. No, it does not. When a crowd cuts off the escape route, Williford leaps out of the hire coach and tries to lose himself in the crowd. In the confusion, street urchins snatch... the characters catch up to the children in their cellar hideout. Cellar complex. With the stone of galore in their possession, the characters emerge from the cellar complex only to find themselves surrounded by the city watch. They are arrested for one or more crimes and taken to the courthouse and dockyard. See, talk about railroading, right? Meanwhile, the doppelganger tries to get the stone back. Any character who becomes attuned to the stone of galore learns that the vault of dragons is hidden under Old Tower in the Sea Ward. So they can learn all of this. Yeah, so there's quite a few little problems here. So we're going to make our own encounter chain in the next 10 minutes, right? I don't know how we're going to do that. So let's take a look at the mausoleum. So how are we going to... Well, let's stay on that list here, and let's look at what we can do. So instead of... so being betrayed by a couple of their own is right. And I think the idea, so let's see, well, we'll do this here, mausoleum. Oh, well, we can make these secrets, right? So, so two, so he took it to their valet. I don't know about the cellar complex. So it would seem that, like, the big question is, what happens if the characters aren't involved? Right? And is it possible that, let's pretend that, so this whole thing does not involve the characters, right? So the mausoleum, it showed up at the mausoleum, there's a bunch of dead cultists, and then there was a couple of cultists that fled on their own and took the stone. They fought a bunch of spine devils, and the spine devil took it and then delivered it to the Castlanters. The valet then is in his cart, and he's riding off. And does it get stolen from him by the street urchins? Let's take a look at the cellar complex and see if it's interesting. Street urchins like the B7 serves a club and through the secret door. Kind of cool that they find a couple of kids. I kind of dig that. So in the if we think about this without the characters, the stone would still be there. But that kind of seems lame. So the spine devils took it to the alley. Let's see what you guys are saying. Yeah, Navy DM says the encounter builder, I don't know if I'm going to have time to use it today. I was really hoping to have time to use it today, but I don't think I'm going to. I was going to work with it. I got too busy talking about other crap. So let's see. The spine devils took the valet and the alley. By some kids. Valet got robbed by a couple of kids. So now the stone is gone. What would have happened if the characters never showed up then? According to the way the encounter works is that it's sitting underneath a mimic, and it would probably have sat there for a while. But would it really just be sitting there? I don't know. So the problem is, like, the minute you put the stone in the character's hands, you don't want to take it from them. That kind of sucks. I'll tell you what. I think we will do 10 minutes longer on the game today so that I can play a little bit with the encounter. So let me finish this up, and then we will spend some time with the encounter builder because I'd like to try it out. I have some things that we can put in here. I don't know that I'm going to use it the same way that everyone else is going to use it, though. I think I'm just going to use it as a big list of all the monsters that I would use in the game and not really worry about encounter balance. But we'll see. So if the stone is sitting in the cellar, what would the Castlanters do at that point? Like, did they lose it? They would probably send Flaxen to go find it, right? So I think that Flaxen would go down there. I think Herstal Flaxen got it back, right? He's smart. Herstal Flaxen can track him down. And he wounded one of the kids. Because he's a bastard. And then he is going to bring it to... I kind of want to have like a scene where either the Castlanters can get it or the characters can get it. So, I guess, is this, like, where does this adventure go at this point? So, like, once that season has entered, it's the vault, right? They get to the vault. So this could be their opportunity to get to the vault. But I think more interesting is that it's at, I think we're going to, so I'm going to railroad a little bit. Herstal Flaxen got it from the kids. He wounded one of the kids, and he's taking it to the Castlanters. And, that is where we're going to end that one, is now they have to steal it from the Castlanters in Chapter 6. That to me is more interesting. I mean, we could shorten it up, but I want them to meet the Castlanters, and I want stuff with the Castlanters to go on. And that could be an interesting negotiation. So I think that this is sort of the secret. Now, they might probably know, well, he's probably going straight to the Castlanters, so why don't we just head there? And that could circumvent the entire, this entire thing, and that's fine. Like, if they just say, we're not going to follow that, why don't we just go to the Castlanters? We're almost sure he's going there. Like, do we know that's where he went, or do we think we can get him along the way? They don't know that, but it's like, well... maybe they can. So I think that will be, I think that's how we're going to run that one. Let's talk about what monsters are going to show up today. So let's go. This is going to be a little bit of a longer show. We'll go another extra 10 minutes to look at the encounter builder. And we go to tools and we go to encounter builder. You guys can see this all right? Yeah. So what kind of critters am I going to need today? I know I'm going to need a cultist. And you drag them over. That's kind of cool. And it tells you how many. I'm going to need a cult fanatic. Drop that guy in there. I want a warlock. Oops. I think I need one of the smaller warlocks. Yeah, because I can't use the fiend, the fiend warlock. That's a great old one, warlock. Let's see. There's the 3 warlocks. Yeah, the warlock of the fiend is unfortunately really powerful. 17th level spellcaster. I could probably dynamically lower his or her stats somewhat, but probably easier is to grab one of the lower warlocks. This one fits. A challenge 4 is better. And then give it fiendish powers. You know, like what fiendish casting spells can this one cast? Those are crazy. Yeah, nothing insane. So fire-based spells, right? So I think having another Fey Warlock. He's not your problem. Says once they attune to the Stone of Galore, they have to find the 3 keys to open the vault. Yeah, I forgot about the 3 keys. I think I skipped that when I ran it before. Navy DM says, could the other factions be involved? There are other factions and they could be involved. So yeah, I'll have to play a lot of that by ear. So what else? Oh, we have Spine Devils, right? So I'm not building an encounter with this. I don't, you know, I play differently. Oh, look, you can title it. So this is I'm not using the counter build in the way it's intended to be used. I'm just using it to bookmark monsters. Because I'll figure out challenge on the fly. Thugs. My favorite monster ever is the Thug. Oh, look, that's weird. You can group monsters together. What does that do? I don't understand how that works. I wonder what grouping does exactly. Oh, look, they have Zinterim Thug. Is that different than a normal Thug? That looks like a normal Thug. I'll just use normal Thug. Top left is fillable to rename them as well. Oops. What can you rename? You can rename the encounter. Yeah. He's not your problem. Says I think the group probably facts for multiple monster accounts for multiple monster. What other devils are there? Barbed, bearded. Barbs are tough. Beardeds, I think, are also tough. A little less tough. I might throw a bearded devil in here. Again, there's just sort of chain devil. Oh yeah, chain devils are powerful. I'll throw one of them in later. Lots of devils. So is this like auto saved at this point? Save encounter. So now my encounter is saved. Does that mean it's on my phone? Let me look at my phone. Oh, Imp Familiars. Yeah. Oh, that's a great idea. Evil Sales Ass says Imp Familiars are always fun. What's cool is Uranus has an Imp Familiar. So the idea that whoops. So I want to edit this one, and we're gonna put an imp. The idea that the other cultist has an imp, this Archfey cultist has an imp, is a great idea. What is a new? Oh, look at those guys! Blah. That's some Shadow the Demon Lord stuff right there. What are they? Worthless Souls. I don't know where they'd find that guy. I'm not sure I'm going to throw that guy in. Save ability is convenient. I tend to build these encounters by pulling the monster info into one note. I'll have to try for the next session. Yeah, so now I've got this sort of encounter. And I save it again, right? And I've got sort of... This is... the way I'm doing it is I just want to have a list of the monsters I need, and I can pull up their stat blocks easily. So if I go to D&D Beyond, and I go to my encounters... Oh, look at that. I can't read them though. That's weird. The way they put it on D&D Beyond on the app is you can't read the name. There's not enough room for the name, but it looks really good. So can I bookmark this now? Add to my home screen, and we'll say DH for encounters. Done. And if I pop that up, hey, look at that. So I now have, if you look at my phone, I have an icon on my phone, and I go boop, and it pulls the encounters right up. That's kind of nice. And I can just go cultists or imps or thugs or bearded devils. Not bad. So I presume that the way people are intended to use it is that you build an encounter per a particular scene, and that would make sense. Like I should, let's see, I've got 4 minutes left. Let me try it the way it's intended to be used. So create new. So we're gonna say this is the. Am I spelling Asmodeus right? Not Amadeus. Is it AS or AZ? I don't know. And in the shrine, he's not your problem, says AS. Okay. We have Warlock. And we decided on the Archfey. We have Cultists. And we're going to put in 4 of these guys. And then we have, my characters. So now I got to do this. I have 5 characters, and they are 4th level. And then we will have a cult. Oh, some thugs. Because I love me some thugs. And I think there's 2 thugs. So this is considered a deadly encounter. I don't care. Save. It's a deadly encounter, but CR18 cultists are going to drop like a stone. This is where like the challenge rating calculator is kind of a mess, right? It's like it overcompensates for things. If I had 4 warlocks of the Archfey, that'd be one thing, but 4 cultists, that's not so bad. Anyway, so now I've got that. Did you set your party's character list? I did, yeah. If I edit this, I have 5 characters. Average party level is 4. So yeah, it's tuned for the characters, and that's why it's deadly. What is the budget though? Yeah, so it's 3,500 XP, and deadly is considered 2,500. It's interesting as a daily budget. And I'm gonna rant for my last 2 minutes. Sorry about the ranting in the last 2 minutes. My hair's all goofy. When we put a system like this is great, and people want it and people love it, and I'm sure that I'm just throwing words into the air. I'm converting oxygen to carbon dioxide over this, and that's about the only value I'm doing. If you provide the Xanathar sewer hideout from chapter 1 in this, it would be super deadly with an orc wizard, Duergar bandit, and a mind flayer and an intellect warrior. Yeah, but the mind flayer takes off in that encounter. It's just the other guys. So when you put a heavy mechanic system like this in place, where you have like this calculator and it's really clear about what things, people are going to believe it, and they're going to rely on it. I'm making an assumption that they do. But I know like Kobold Fight Club is super popular. So if Kobold Fight Club, a third party one, is super popular, I guarantee you this is going to be popular too. Almost guarantee it. And the problem is that like, instead of having this sort of free-flowing narrative of like, I don't care what the encounter says, the reason why I came up with what I just came up with, that there's a warlock and there's 4 cultists and there's 2 thugs, is because of the story. And the story is you go down in there and 2 of Herstal Flaxen's guys are still down below, and they're arguing with the cultists down there. And the cultists are all kind of, some of them work for, they're probably Castellanter folks. And the warlock is certainly a Castellanter cultist, right? And he was, or he or she was kind of making sure that the Growlhans were doing what they were supposed to be doing. And they were also the one that opened up the gate and let the person go through. So that's what makes sense, is like you have this warlock and you have this cultist, these cultists, and you have these thugs. But like the thugs and the cultists don't even get along. So it's not like they're all going to attack at once. And I'll probably stick one of the cultists like in a hallway outside instead of just, like you burst in the room and there's all these guys in there. So we'll see how this turns out. But it's the situation is what's going to be dictating how difficult this encounter is, not just the numbers of the monsters. And I think like when we have a system like this, it builds this like we desperately want, many DMs desperately want a solidified system to help them build D&D games. They want to have nice clear boxes. They want to have 5 encounters, and the first one is combat, and then there's a role-playing one, and then there's an investigation one, then there's another combat, and there's a combat. They want this like super rigid structure, and then they just fill it in with like, this one's an easy one, and this one's a hard one, this one's deadly, and this one's easy and deadly. They want that so desperately, but that formula gets away from this, like, we need to just step back from the whole thing and think about what the story means, and then start with the higher level story and work our way down. And the higher level story is that the Castellanters are using the Growlhuns as a front, and the Castellanters have this, they're trying to get money because they want to buy their kids back, their kids' souls back from Asmodeus. And they were cultists, and they had all these things, but there's a lot of like, and then they hire this ex-interim assassin guy who's in there, and he's got friends that he's hired, but they're just mercenaries. They don't care about cults and stuff like that. So you have this like higher level story, and you drop the monsters in. So you start high and work low, rather than what am I going to form, what am I going to do today, So I don't know, but then I don't know if that's going against the whole principles of Return to Lazy Dungeon Master, which is here's this 8-step process that you follow. But the 8-step process is getting you to try to think about the story and start with the characters, start with where your game is going to start, what are the secrets and clues, what possible scenes might take place. Like it's meant to take that higher level view and not get so nitty gritty about, well, I need to now remove some cultists from here until I get this to a, wow, is it still deadly? I guess it's deadly because of that Archfey Warlock. And now I screwed up. I guess that Archfey Warlock is oh, see, I can just get it to, that's so weird. Anyway, so be careful, and this is advice is BS. So, I can only share my experiences, but I know that if I find myself gravitating too tightly to like the math and the system that's here, I'm forgetting about the bigger story that's taking place and remembering that I can tune all this as we go. And it's more important to kind of focus on the bigger story than it is on the specific math of like an encounter. So I like this tool though. The drag and drop is pretty cool. I like that I can just drop on my phone. So that looks cool. So I've got 15 minutes to like get all my crap together and get to my game. So I'm going to run. I want to thank all of you fine folks for sticking around today and hanging out in Twitch chat. Not your problem, and Navy DM as always. One thing is my mom wants to save the kids. I missed that. We will save the kids. In fact, one of the kids will be wounded by an acidic crossbow bolt, but the characters will come and save the kid. It'll be great. Yeah, I think there's going to be another big announcement today, and I'm excited to hear what that new announcement is going to be. So we'll find out. I think they got one more product, and I'm still betting on Planescape. I still think there's going to be a Planescape thing. So we'll see. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for coming. I know we went long today. Another Magic the Gathering setting book. I hope that's not true. They just did one this year, but we'll see. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for coming, and I hope you had a good time, and I will see you guys again in a week. Have a great game, and go out there and play some D&D.